A very warm hello from Gangabal Lake, one of the great lakes of Kashmir. My dear friends, next year I complete 20 years of teaching yoga and meditation, and this video is just to say thanks to all of you who've been part of my journey. When I began in 2003, aged 22, I was very fortunate to have a wonderful teacher and to have wonderful students. In fact, I don't even call them students, but fellow yogis, fellow journey people on this path. In the great Indian tradition, we say Mata Pita Guru Devam. First, offering thanks to my mother and father, themselves professors, my mother of French, my father of English, and we joke at home, I'm a teacher of silence. So thank you to my parents to trust that at 22, I could take a decision when teaching yoga and meditation was not even a viable career. Thank you. To my teacher, Bharat Thakur, the most amazing person I've met, and while it's been more than 12 years since I have not lived with, I spent the first 7 years living with my guru. Now this is incredible because of his kind-heartedness that he allowed us to stay in his house and learn the subject. It's really fascinating because I've met many people who teach yoga and meditation, but I've never met a person as vibrant as Bharat, as we call him. Back then he used to teach yoga and meditation, and then he got into film production and mineral water businesses and clothes businesses. He was so active. Agriculture. He's been a painter for the last 5-6 years, and now is an actor. This constant evolution is the hallmark of the level of energy that you get as a yogi. And the ability to continuously not identify with any of the roles that you play in life is what sets a yogi apart. So thank you, Bharat. Thank you for all the lovely years and for the continued love and affection that you show. I'd also like to thank Neetu. Neetu is my former wife, but first and foremost, my dear friend and what we call a guru bai. When we used to live around our teacher, we were about 10 of us or 20 in different cities, and we all lived together around the teacher, and Neetu was there already. And when I started to live, we eventually went on from being friends to lovers and then eventually married. Without Neetu being around, I may not have lasted the distance. I'd also like to thank all the people that have learnt yoga alongside me, all my peers and all my students. At 22, I used to be an advertising copywriter. At 21, and I intended to train my focus. So somebody suggested try yoga. I went in for my first yoga class. I'm a Christian by birth. The very first day I could do these beautiful meditative postures. I thank Uma, who was teaching that class, a student of Bharat. Thank you, Uma. And something happened in that one first class, and immediately it dawned on me that the reasons or the explanation of life that faith is not meant to give, I would get through yoga. And it set me on a journey of a lifetime. I quickly realized that this would take a lifelong study. As luck would have it, a dear friend of mine passed away, and in that process I understood that life is too short to be stuck in an office, even though as an advertising copywriter it was a dream job for me. I intended to be a travel writer, and I left. At which point my teacher Bharat said, if you really want to learn meditation, you come and live with me. It suited the need for me to travel, so I moved out to Delhi from Bangalore. A lot of times people romanticize about giving up everything to pursue their journey of life. In life, nobody gives up anything. You choose what you feel will give more value or give you more happiness. And for me, pursuing meditation would give me more happiness, so I left. I thought I would learn and figure out meditation in 3 months. As life passed by, I lived with my teacher for 7 years. And initially, I found it very difficult, but thanks to the people who were around, Nandan and Ravi and Prerna and Usha, and all the lovely people that I got a chance to live with, we were students and we were seekers. And our days were filled learning, teaching a little, discussing, and understanding the subject around our teacher. Life went on. I also have to thank my dear friend Mahesh, who introduced me to my teacher, Bharat, Anant, beautiful people. Very soon I started to manage the work that we were doing in Delhi at that point, and it was a great eye-opener for me because for the last nearly 20 years, 19 years, essentially it's been about managing group dynamic, understanding people. I often joke that I don't need to sort of watch fictional shows because I have a deep, deep interaction with people, and we're able to share life journeys, and they're able to tell me things which are so much more rewarding. Life went on, 4 years passed by rather, and then it was time for me to join my teacher as he had set up in Dubai. I moved to Dubai, and one of the great things that happened to me when I was teaching in Delhi, and I'm very grateful to all the celebrity students that we got to teach. Some of the richest people in India, some of the most talented musicians, artists, world famous musicians rather, and some of the most beautiful actresses and actors. And it taught me two things. One, there is a reason why a person is successful in life. The discipline, the love for learning is there, and the respect they gave me as a 22-year-old, but because I was teaching them something. And the other thing that it taught me, that you could be the most beautiful, rich, or talented, but it doesn't mean that you'd be happy. Happiness is something that has to happen as a daily process. When I went to Dubai, it was beautiful because I got a chance to take this culture of India to a foreign land. And back then in 2007, there were about 3-4 yoga schools. Now there are 75 or more. It was lovely because we couldn't even do like an Om, and we would ask our students, is it okay to do it? It's changed a lot in such a long time. But it was very beautiful to find a whole different, a global audience interested in the subject of yoga and meditation. 3 years passed by. I even taught the UAE national team golf. I taught them meditation, of course. And it was lovely to work with different people of different stratas. I understood what the luxury market is and so on and so forth. As luck would have it, I was playing football, I still do, and I broke my leg. And at that point, I came back to India for a surgery, and I said, okay, now it's time for me to be on my own and to leave my teacher's umbrella. At that point, I was the CEO of Artistic Yoga, and it was great and very rewarding to be able to lead classes. I recall even today, the first class that I taught when I was in Delhi in 2002-3. It was supposed to be a 1-hour class, and I could only teach 26 minutes, after which I didn't know a single asana or a pranayam. That was my entire repertoire. And then when you do that the first time, you understand that there are people taking time out to come and learn, and you better be good. I trained. I was very lucky to have a teacher like Bharat who taught us the essence of the subject, but never the dogma. Most of the teachers and most of the people I know who are into yoga, they get the dogma, but they don't get the essence. So thank you to my teacher. In 2010, Neetu and me were married by then, so we set forth a new journey, and we set up something called Total Yoga in Pune. I'm very grateful to all the lovely people, starting with Anil Chauhan, who was our first student at Total Yoga. And we were very blessed because the moment we landed in Pune, we didn't know anybody. We just chose that and we said, let's begin our work there. Let's start a new chapter. And so we just began this thing called Total Yoga. We called it that because we wanted to teach people everything about yoga, not just the asanas. And as luck would have it, people took to it. And within a month, we had 4 studios, 5 rather, all across the city of Pune, and we were teaching. Neetu and me were very hardworking back then. I remember sitting outside the editor's office of Pune Mirror because I wanted to write a column on yoga. And it took me 2-3 hours of sitting around before I was called in, and then I explained what I could offer. And I started this column, and that helped us spread even more. I thank Alwyn and so many dear friends, Ruchira, and all the people from back then, Divya, and they're very beautiful. But we were always clear that we would again go abroad, and we wanted to go to Singapore and just see whether our work would find a global audience. As it was time to leave in 2011, a lot of our students said, why don't you train some teachers? We were a bit skeptical. We had trained teachers before under my teacher. We were a bit skeptical because if you train somebody and they're not really serious about the subject and they hurt somebody, I'm sitting in Singapore, somebody gets hurt in Pune, it reflects poorly and it's not my fault. But we found enough and more beautiful people, Divya, and so many more people who we trained, about 8 to 10 of teachers. We went to Singapore. As soon as we reached Singapore, I went to this beautiful studio called Dance on Us. Tilly, thank you Tilly for your help. And I went and saw the studios, and there was a big studio she had. She had many, about 4 or 5. And they used to have dance classes and so on. And I said, yeah, I'll take the biggest studio, which can accommodate 45 people. She said, why don't you start with a smaller one? I said, no, I'm a very good teacher. It'll fill up. And we did a small little advertisement in the paper. I showed up for class, and 0 people turned up. It was a very humbling experience for me. Very quickly, I went back to Tilly and said, let me start with the smallest studio, which could accommodate 6 people. Or 7 people. At that point, Groupon was a big thing, so we advertised in Groupon. The next class, there were 20 people in that small space, and I remember that the mats were stuck together. It was like a carpet. So I could go back and tell Tilly, now I can get a bigger studio. Experiences like this, thankfully, Neeta and me were very confident of how good we were with our subject. When I left my teacher, basically we never really did a lot of savings and stuff. So my teacher said, Bharat said, I'll give you like a certain amount of money as you're leaving. You were the CEO. And I remember saying, no, you've taught me enough and I can handle, I can manage. And I'm very grateful because the ability to teach yoga, a lot of people come to us as yoga teachers, but they cannot teach the subject. And that's really sad. And no teacher training should ever certify anybody unless they're confident they can teach. So we were very good and we were very confident about what we could do. A year later, in 2012, we said, there's a certain service that yoga offers. It's a help to people, to society. I should be doing it in my own city. So we moved to Bangalore and we set up there. Very quickly, we were in 4 different spaces. And then life went on. Before we left, we trained some fabulous people in Singapore, Catherine and Jyoti, Shan, Sandeep, Anne. Thank you to all of you for continuing to teach the total yoga style. It was a format with 3 different classes in a week: Hatha, Vinyasa, Power Yoga, Yoga Nidra. So these 3 classes would be taught. From the very beginning, we were very keen on designing an experience rather than just offering any particular class. When we went to Bangalore, again there were 4 studios, and we started to train teachers, Komal, Kavya, Slavidza, so many lovely people over the years. Thanks to Kiran joining and helping us, we started to make big events in UB City. And thanks to Vikram joining our classes, we started to take our retreats to vaster Himalayan places. Eventually, running retreats of 50 people in Ladakh and Dharamshala and so on. Life was beautiful and we kept expanding. At some point, Neetu and me had reached the end of our journey as a couple, and then we separated, and we yet continued Total Yoga. And we kept training teachers. Pune was flourishing. We trained people across. And thanks to people like Samane, we could do work in Dubai. Thanks to Jagdeep in the UK, Purnima in New Zealand, Slavidza in America. So many teachers helped us spread across 4 continents. Towards the end of 2018-19, I wanted to be on my own and to travel the world teaching. And so 10 years of Total Yoga, and I exited, thanks to Neetu for continuing and still flourishing. I set up something called 21st Century Yoga, and thanks to my friend Sumeru, who handled the technical side. Without all these people over the years, none of this would have been possible. Thanks to my dear friend Vishwas, we started to make retreats like this, which were camping experiences in the Himalayas. My friend Viso, and I would go into Bali thanks to him and start to teach there. Thanks to Clifford and co-direction, I could do beautiful projects in Dubai and Saudi Arabia. Each and every person that I mentioned, and so many more that I've not been able to, have been integral to me being able to continue doing what I really, really love. A few pointers that I'd like to share as well to all my friends who are on the journey. I meet people across the world, and a lot of people tell me that I want to come to India, and I say, please, please, if you're interested in yoga and meditation, you have to come to India. It's like coming to your mother's house. A lot of people, and it's not expensive at all. You spend so much on yoga clothes and pants and yoga mats, and save all of that. Spend the money, come to India, find a teacher, learn the subject at depth. It's not right that you're on the yoga journey and you don't know what is Jalaneti or Kunjal Kriya or Laghu Shanka Prakshalan. There are people there who are serious about the subjects. If you're a teacher or if you're a student, study all of this. If you don't know the Shat Kriyas and you're only teaching from asana, no pranayama meditation, it's not right. Make the effort, because yoga has been around for a very long time and it's gone through its glam phase, but now people are super serious. They're not doing it just because it's a fad. They're doing it because they're figuring out life through it. You are doing the same. Make it a point to get to the depth. It's very important to do a Himalayan trek. Come out, experience, understand, because it was designed, when you look at these mountains, you understand the magnanimity of life, of existence itself. It's been 20 years, a few months short of 20 years that I've been teaching. There are very few professions in the world where you have to be at your best physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, day in and day out. A lot of professions don't care. You may be smart, but they don't care about the other aspects. But when you choose yoga as a profession, meditation as a profession, it's very beautiful, because the journey of you improving as a human being and the journey of you as a career are the same. For most people, they do what they love on the weekend, and if there's a way to do both, that'd be great. To a lot of people, I've always felt that very young I decided that if I really want to get good at the subject, I need to earn my bread and butter, my living through the subject. The other thing that's very important is three things that have helped me. One, to be able to teach yoga and meditation, you got to respect the tradition. Some of the greatest people to have walked our planet have lived 50, 60 years in a cave, understanding themselves. Learn, respect. Two, teaching is service. It's not for you, it is for the student. So it is always service. Your practice is your own, but you share the love by serving. I've learned over the years that teaching should be taken, not given. Teach those who want to learn. For everybody else, it's fine. You can just have fun. But when you find somebody who really wants to learn, you better teach. And the third thing is a sense of humor. The subject is very serious. You should always have fun. You take the subject seriously. People will take you seriously. But otherwise, just have fun. I look forward to the next few years. I'm very, very lucky that I got into teaching yoga at a young age. It grew to become a global phenomenon. Today, I don't seek to be a travel writer no more. Rather, I travel the world teaching the subject that I love. I meet friends on the journey. Some of them become students. All of them remain friends. Thank you, my dear people who I've mentioned. To all of you who have missed mentioning, I'm very sorry. But over 20 years, there are thousands of people that I need to thank. And this is my way of saying